Hi there and welcome to this bonus episode of the Gazette's Hockey Inside Out Show. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette and I'm joined by my former Canadiens teammates and 1986 Stanley Cup champions, Chris Nilan and Rick Green. Guys, the Canadiens play the Colorado Avalanche Thursday night at the Bell Center, and the Avalanche will be wearing their old Quebec Nordiques sweaters in honor of the team that left the provincial capital after the 1994-95 season. I'm sure you guys have some memories from the Battle of Quebec. Knuckles, let's start with you. What's your best and or worst memory of playing against the Nordiques?
Well, beating them. We were down 2-0 in the series there. We came back and beat them, and we lost the first two games, and we roared back, and we tied it and ended up beating them. But you know, the crazy night, certainly the Battle of Quebec. And, you know, I'm glad I'm out of town when they're coming, because if I was in the building that night, for some reason, when I see that logo, the wires touch together and they start sparking. So I'm glad I'm out of town. But listen, it was a great rivalry. There's no question. And, you know, I got asked about it quite a bit. And I did recently by someone with the team that was doing a special on it. And, you know, Boston was our main rival, okay? When you talk about rivalries back then, that was around a hell of a lot longer than the Quebec one was, okay? But very quickly, in a short time frame, the Quebec rivalry with Montreal caught up to the Boston one. There's no question. When you talk about the passion, you know, the two cities, you know, the French city, bilingual city, big city, smaller city, Journal de Montreal, Journal de Quebec, who got the better hot dogs, you know.
Molson O'Keefe also, right?
Molson O'Keefe, everything. Like, you know, it just had all the makings of an atom bomb, a small atom bomb. And that atom bomb blew up on quite a few occasions. And it culminated certainly in the Battle of Quebec and Match de la Vendredi Saint.
Yeah. Rick, what's your best or worst memories of that rivalry?
Well, look, they had a good team. I mean, the Stastnys, Hunter, you know,
Goulet,
even, I mean, Slager, you know, Slager. Just Randy Moore. They just had a tough group to play against, and they wanted to beat us up, and we wanted to beat them up. And every game was a physical one, and there was a lot of chopping and hacking, and Nuts knows it very well. There's a lot of punches that were exchanged, you know, throughout the whole game. And you touched on. I used to laugh. O'Keefe owning the Nordiques, and it was a battle of the beer. So we wanted to make sure that we would win, so that they would drink the Molson instead of the O'Keefe beer, which was kind of comical. And you know, but I just, you know, I remember the battles that went on, and there was a lot of dirty play that went on, and they were tough games.
Knuckles, you were saying, you know, you see that logo and the wires almost touch. Which player on that team did you hate the most?
Well, hate's a strong word, but you know, Hunter.
It's like
I respected him for what he did, but you know, shit, you had to get in his way. You had to punch him in the head sometimes. You had to chop him. But you know, that whole thing started with him when he had Carpenter down, punching him back in the head. And I'll be damned if I was going to let that happen. I tried to get to him, and you know, I had to get Moeller out of the way to try and get to him, but I still couldn't get to him. So, you know, that all started there. And they had, like Rick said, they had some great players: Stastnys, Goulet. They had Mario Mail on defense, Pat Price, Leon Rochefort, Norman Rochefort, in your face all the time. Tough guys to play against. That Paul Gillis, you know, they had, you know, and they did try and beat us up all the time, and we responded in kind. So it had all the great ingredients, and you could do shit back then that, Jesus, now you'd be, you know, they'd arrest you. Now you'd be under arrest.
Rick, as a defenseman, who was the toughest Nordique player to play against? Who was like the most talented guy you would struggle with, man?
Peter Stastny. This guy, I couldn't knock him off the puck. He was probably one of the strongest guys that I played against for his ability to be strong on the puck. I couldn't move him, and his strength with the puck, stick on the puck, he was really good at it. And I had a lot of respect for this guy. As much as I tried to run and hack him, it didn't phase him, and he was. He played the same way each game, and his statistics spoke for itself. He was a really good player, and he was a tough player to play against.
Knuckles, they also had the little tiger behind the bench there, Michel Bergeron. What do you remember about him?
I love Bergie. Listen.
You ended up playing for him, right?
Yeah, but listen, I remember being in Quebec and we in Montreal, and we'd be skating around a warm up, and he'd be out on the bench like this, watching our warm up, and he'd look at Tremblay and give him shit. And every time I would come around, I'd look straight at him, and he'd look at me, he'd wink at me. For some reason, Bergie liked me, or he was trying to put me to sleep, and that wasn't happening. But he, when I got to New York, I absolutely loved Michel Bergeron. He was so cool to play for. He was a player's coach, and Bergie, God, I had fun with him in New York. Bergie and Lemaire, man, they hated each other. The two of them back and forth. It was fun.
Rick, what do you remember about the atmosphere at the Forum when the Nordiques came to town?
The thing that I remember the most was in between periods, when everybody started to come back into their seat, there was a cloud of smoke that would follow them into the Forum, to the point where we'd be skating around and choking on the amount of smoke that was billowing out of the concourse from everybody having their 10 cigarettes in between periods. And funny, that was something that really struck me as mine. What is this? What is this all about? But yeah, this was, thank goodness they don't do that anymore, but that was left a real mark in my mind as, wow, they've got some serious smokers going on here in the car.
Hey, I remember that blue haze that just hung over the arena. It hung over the ice. It was like a blue haze, like a blue cloud.
We saw that same haze in Thursdays because of
the low roof.
They had the low roof
in the basement bar.
It was perfect, so we could hide in the haze.
The reverse side of that, Knuckles. What was it like going into Quebec City? I remember Mario Tremblay used to go into Quebec City and just stir stuff up, right? What was it like going into that arena?
Listen, they were passionate fans, the same thing. I guess they felt a little bit inferior to Montreal for all the years and all the success the Canadiens had. And the fan base they hated on the Habs, man. It was like, but, it was all, I get the passion of the fans, no question about it. And they were great fans for their team. But yeah, it was difficult to play in there, and I remember Steve Penny's father-in-law, Brian, being in there all the time, and and he was a locker room attendant for us, and he was just a great guy. And we'd come in and just that old dingy locker room, I guess it was kind of like playing junior, but I never played junior, but certainly that old dingy locker room gave me a good idea of what it could have been like playing junior back in the day here. But yeah, it's just a lot of, passion, fun. You had to be ready. If you weren't ready, man, you know what? Your ass is going to be pinned to the bench all night.
Yeah, Rick, Knuckles talked about when he sees the logo, the wires come together almost touch. What are you going to feel seeing that logo back on the ice Thursday? Do you think it's a good idea that the NHL is doing it?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I don't know. NHL is probably making a ton of money from selling all the jerseys, but it's kind of neat. They try and do things, use creative ways to continue with the fan interest, and why not do something like that? And people will be into it, I'm sure.
Knuckles, can you imagine what
it's kind of fake rivalry, because it.
Yeah. Can you imagine though, Knuckles, what it's like?
You don't have the potential for that anymore because they don't play against each other enough. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Stu.
Twice a year, no, but what can you imagine what it'd be like for a Quebec former Nordiques fan seeing the sweater coming back to Montreal? I guess it's mixed emotions there.
Yeah, I always felt bad for them because here they leave Quebec and they win the Stanley Cup the next year in Colorado, right?
With Patrick Roy.
The next year. That was so bad. And it was nice. I think they brought the cup there to Quebec City afterwards, which was nice of the organization to do. But, boy, what a kick in the labunza that was. They move and they win the cup right the next year. But, yeah, I'm sure it's nice for the fans to see. But, they asked me about that. You think having the logo spark some rivalry. I mean, these kids don't have a clue what that was about.
No.
I mean, no one does,
No, exactly. Well, whether you like the Nordiques or hated them, it's a great sweater. It'll be sort of cool to see it back on the ice at the Bell Center on Thursday night. Anyway, that's it for this bonus episode. We'll have a couple of more bonus episodes coming up over the next few days, so you can look for those. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. And in case you didn't already know, Hockey Inside Out is also available now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.